Yeah, growing up, I never knew what I wanted to be.
I still don't know what you mean.
Arjuna says in the Bhagavad Gita, it's harder to control the mind than to control the wind. 4 types of humility. Humility of the body, humility of the mind, humility of speech, and humility of the heart.
Thank you so much for coming back on our channel. We promise you to bring in with the podcast that will make you wiser, healthier, and mentally stronger. For today's podcast, we have with us Smith Krishna. He's born in spirituality. And to know the credibility of this person, I request you to go on Google and type Smith Krishna. You'll get thousands of kirtan on his name. He's been living in Vrindavan for so many years that Vrindavan is his home now. He beautifully talks about how we tend to take things for granted that are so important to us and given so easily to us. I think that's true. Next thing that he talks is samskaras. Samskaras are basically the values and the ethics given to you by your parents and your ancestors. And mind you, it's very difficult to change your samskaras. Only with the help of spirituality, only with the help of some guidance, you can actually change your samskaras. He also talks about paradigm shift, how changing small habits in your life can totally shift your life. One very important takeaway from this podcast is the association. Your association tells where are you going in this life. One small tip for the people who are from iskcon and listening to this podcast is listen to the entire podcast. We've talked about Prabhupada, we've talked about Andra Prabhu, and there are some things that you can definitely relate to. If you want to be a kirtaniya, listen to this podcast. If you want to be a good devotee, listen to this podcast. If you want to grow in your spirituality, listen to this podcast. Please let us know in the comment section your reviews on it. Looking forward to it. Thank you. So I think someone who's like you're born and brought up in Krishna consciousness, I think still everyone needs to find their own journey. Like there's definitely a path given to you, but there has to be some point where you realize that, okay, this is something that I also need to pursue. So there might be something for you as well.
Yeah, as you said, like for me, it's like different from many of the youth that join after, like they were not devotees, but then they join after. For them, it's a little different because they did it willingly. They chose to join and they understood the philosophy and then they were inspired and so they joined. But for me, it was like, it was always there.
Yeah.
My parents, we did kirtan and we chanted Hare Krishna and that's what we do, So growing up, as a kid, you don't realize, you're just doing, you're going for Mangalarti, you're sitting in Bhagavatam class and it becomes like a routine. But then as I started growing up, I started realizing, oh my God, there's so much going on here.
Yeah.
I haven't been paying attention for so many years of my life, And then it starts to hit you that, oh wait, I should start actually paying attention to what I'm doing. I've been doing the same thing. It's just that there's a shift in consciousness, like a paradigm shift, And so as I started to becoming older and understanding, and then I would read Prabhupada books, but I would just read them and I wouldn't really understand them. But then I started actually reading and like really meditating on what Prabhupada is saying and like every word. And then I started realizing that there's so much more. So I met my Guru Maharaj in, I believe, 2018. Okay. His Holiness Sachinanda Maharaj.
Okay.
I think that started that process of me trying to actually understand. That's where it started a little bit for me. Because he would show me so much love and everything. And you could say in the beginning, initially, I was attracted by that, that he's caring so much for me and he's giving me a lot of attention. And from such a high person, I was like, wow, But then when I started, because of his love, I started to listen to what he's saying and try to follow what he was saying. And then you start gaining experiences. You start seeing Krishna's hands in your life. Then, so then it's like a little bit of faith comes and then on that it keeps increasing. Another thing I forgot to mention was that I was homeschooled.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah. And because of Krishna consciousness, because we went to school for a little bit, for like the first till 6th standard. And then my parents started to see that, the association is really bad in the schools. And so they decided, okay, we should get homeschooled. But at the same time, it was like a lot of pressure that, okay, you have to wake up, you have to chant your, you have to read,
Yeah.
So, and because I was a kid, I didn't value it as much. So as you said, like you got a little distracted at one point. So for me, even though I was in Krishna consciousness, but then I became very complacent. Maybe even now, some little bit of that complacency is still lacking there. It's because of not realizing the importance of the routine. Now that I realize the importance, and I'm trying again to come back and go for modalities, chant my rounds attentively, read. I think that there has to be a certain level of conviction of why we're doing what we're doing and where are we getting to by what we are doing. You have to understand the higher goal and why we're doing what we're doing. So that will come if we do it. If we read, then we understand that, okay, this is actually what's being said, and this is what's going to happen, and this is where I'm getting to.
In your in last talk, like in the talk that we're having right now, I think you mentioned surrender word more than a couple of times. So I think whoever's listening, they should know that how much importance surrender keeps in Krishna consciousness or in any spiritual journey that that they are following. Because I realized at a certain point in my life that even if I was practicing Krishna consciousness, I wasn't surrender. So if some problem comes into my life, I used to curse maybe Krishna why it's happening with me, and somehow it was my ego as well that I am doing things, I am controlling my mind, I am controlling my senses, so that I comes in.
Right.
But after a certain point, when I just surrendered, I was like, I'm not able to control my senses, I'm not able to control my mind, and I'm not able to let go the ego as well. So you helped me with that.
Right.
So when I surrendered, automatically everything just started falling into its place. So what is your take on surrender? Like how much importance does it hold in your life?
Srila Prabhupada says that the devotees, they're fearless. But the reason they're fearless is because they realize that they're helpless. And so they just surrender to the Lord. And so the Lord takes care of them. But when we are trying to do something, then we are trying to, I have my plan and this is my plan. And if something goes wrong, then I'll not panic, If you do a little bit of it, then you see the good in it. And then you say, okay, I can do it more. And yeah, that's how we should practice surrendering. And sometimes it's hard because I might have a desire and then I go to Krishna and I ask, I want something. And then it doesn't seem like anything is happening. But Prabhupada says that when Krishna really cares for you and you're a devotee and you're a surrendered devotee, for a karmi, he might just give, okay, you ask for an apple, he gives you an apple. But for a devotee, he'll always give something that is good for his devotional service, that will help him progress in his devotional service. So definitely he will fulfill the desire, but he won't necessarily fulfill it how you expected it to be. And so at times you might feel like, oh my God, this is not what I wanted. But then eventually you realize that that was the best thing that could ever happen to me, because that made me learn, that made me grow. For example, this Dhruva Maharaj, when he started praying to the Lord, he went to the Lord and he asked, he didn't ask actually, he went with the intention of asking for a kingdom greater than his great-grandfather, Ram. But when he saw the Lord, then he was like, why was I asking for this? He says, broken glasses when I was getting diamond, the darshan of the Lord and the audience of the Lord. So he didn't ask for that. When he saw the Lord, he didn't ask for the kingdom because that desire was gone. But Krishna still gave it to him because he knew that in his heart he had that. But at that point, when he got the kingdom, he was thinking, why do I need this kingdom? I could just serve the Lord and be with the Lord. And that's what he actually prayed for. Prayed to always serve the Lord and to always be in association of devotees. So there's a verse in Bhagavatam that says, Akama sarva kama va moksha kama udare tivrenam bhakti yoga. Whether you have no desires, whether you're filled with the desires, or whether you have desire for liberation, if you're broad-minded and you're intelligent, you perform devotional service, one-pointed devotional service to Krishna, because that is the solution to everything. We don't know what the future is for us, and so we desire something, and then that could be so much trouble for us, but then if you pray to Krishna, that this is my desire, you please do the needful. Then he will do what is best for you. So that level of surrender has to be there, that Krishna knows what he's doing. And it will come with time. It will come with experience and time.
I think before, while we were talking, you mentioned that you moved to brahmachari ashram for a while. So I have two questions related to that. So first question is that what was your experience like? Because I think a lot of people who are listening to it might connect to it.
Right.
And then second of all, how did your parents were comfortable with taking this decision?
Right. My experience was beautiful. As I told you earlier, I moved into the ashram because of COVID, because the temple was closed and I wasn't able to go because I was staying outside. I wasn't able to go for kirtan, which I do every day. So then I was like, okay, then only the devotees that were staying in the temple, they would. So I was like, okay, I have to move into the temple. And then I moved into the ashram and I thought, okay, I'll stay 1 month, 2 months till COVID finished, till lockdown is over.
Yeah.
But I ended up staying for 2 years. Yeah. It's because it's so blissful and you really grow a lot as a person and as a devotee. I know people that have come into the ashram and they were totally different. A few years down the line, they're like so much more mature and it's incredible. It's a scientific process. Brahmachari ashram, it's part of the ashram dharma where brahmachari is where you're learning and you cultivating knowledge. And then when you're able to be a good brahmachari, then you can move into a good grihastha where you're a good householder. It's because you've developed all these qualities that are required for the grihastha ashram. So, parents are scared to send their children to brahmachari ashram. For me, it's scary outside in the schools, My now going to this your second question. My parents also had this concern, leaving everything and just going into the ashram. But my brother he came to India. He was searching for a university. He wanted to study fine arts. And then we came to Vrindavan and then he asked my parents, just give me a 1 year break and I'll be in the ashram for 1 year. So they said, okay, 1 year. So my parents saw that, how much of an impact it had on him. So they were like, okay, you can just do this for the rest of your life because he really grew so much, And then he kind of like opened the path. So my parents were like, okay, you can also do the same thing. But then you have to, again, don't become complacent. My parents said that, okay, you're not going to study in the material aspect, but then you should study spiritual aspect. And so, yeah.
As you said, you used to take your subjects, your brother used to
as part.
And he opened the gates for you, so that was much better. Okay, so the next question for you is that, according to my experience, is when you grow spiritually, you grow materially as well.
Right.
Because when you get stronger spiritually, you get that confidence and boost of energy, and that happy mood, happy aura is around you.
Yeah.
So that helps you to grow materially as well. Like gives you confidence talking to people, whatever field you are working in, it gives you that confidence. So do you think that happens?
Yeah. I was actually speaking to Pavanitha, and we were speaking about how devotees, they have such an easy chance to develop so many skills, because in whatever services we do, crowd management, when you're doing kirtan, you have to like manage the crowd, that dealing with different people, speaking. So many activities are there in our temple that we do that helps us develop, cooking, art, so many skills.
In music as well, you can
music, doing kirtan, dancing. So, devotees, they have such a wide variety of things they can do, which help them develop. And as you were saying, it's so true that they become more confident, they become more courageous. Look at Srila Prabhupada at the age of 72, going to America with 40 rupees on a boat, having 2 heart attacks. Who can be more courageous, So like devotees, they have no limit actually. And because they have the Supreme Lord backing them up, so then they can face anything. They are not scared of anything.
There's another thing which I wanted to ask is like what I've realized is that if you need to grow spiritually, you need to be very humble.
Mhm.
You need to let go of your ego. You need to be very humble. Basically, I am inspired from Radhanath Maharaj. My father is initiated from Radhanath Maharaj. Usually, I listen to Maharaj lecture every day for 1 hour.
Mhm.
And in every lecture, there's one shlok, so that shlok is repeated more than couple of times in every lecture.
Wow.
And at that point, I realized that Maharaj is trying to tell you something, through his lectures and from that shlok. And he kind of one day, he's just, he talked, the entire lecture was just on that shlok.
Mm.
So at that point, I prayed to Krishna that if 0.1% of that quality comes in me,
right,
so that I can be more humble and I can be more compassionate towards other, and I can be, I can let go my ego.
right.
So that might help me with my spirituality. So what do you think? What's your take on that? Because I think being humble grows you spiritually a lot. Like
Yeah.
that's what I've learned.
I'll quote my spiritual master when he says on humility. He says there's 4 types of humility. There's humility of the body, humility of the mind, humility of speech, and humility of the heart. Humility of the body is performing menial services, cleaning, washing dishes, and anything menial, maybe washing a devotee's cloth, serving Vaishnava, serving Prasada. And then humility of the mind is understanding that, I'm not up there, and like I have so much to learn, and actually I'm not this body yet. So what is there actually to be proud of? Analyzing that our actual situation, understanding I should be down to earth. Yeah. And then humility of speech is speaking very nice words, Hare Krishna, speaking in a very nice way and humble. And humility of the heart is praying that, my Lord, I'm so fallen, and like, please help me in my devotional life, and praying that you are able to progress, because as we said earlier, you can't do it on your, and only if humility of the heart is there, humility of the body, of the mind and the body is there, then the speech, humility of the speech is real. Because we can say, Hare Krishna Prabhu, for now, then I don't care about it. So, and then I was oftentimes when I chant, I meditate on this Chinada basically chanting the road of Krishna. And it's one should chant the holy name of the Lord in a humble state of mind, thinking oneself lower than a straw in the street. One should be more tolerant than a tree. And there's already so many points: lower than a straw in the street, more tolerant than a tree. So tolerant,
No respect.
Yeah.
I don't.
I accepting, no respect, expecting respect.
Always.
And then being devoid of false prestige. So I was thinking about this: being devoid of false prestige. That means that I'm not this body, right? That my false prestige is that I am this and I own this and this is mine and whatever. But the only way you can be devoid of false prestige is by gaining real prestige, real ego. So you have to find who you are, sense and self-realization. What is your relationship with Krishna? Because if you're just saying, I'm not this, I'm not that, then you end up, what are you, impulse? No. So you have to find your relationship with Krishna and like follow in the footsteps of one of the residents of Vrindavan. That's what we call Raghunath Bhakti. In Tulsi Puja, we pray, that my request is that please make me a follower of the coward damsels of virtue. So that's the mood that we should have, that for me to be able to really get rid of false prestige, I should be able to find myself, my real prestige, take hold of that. When you catch something high, that
There's one thing just coming on the top of my head. I think anyone who's listening to you, he might have heard you doing kirtan. I've heard you, and you're saying beautiful. Uh, how do you connect? You know, I think everyone connect with Krishna or the higher power differently. Like someone likes to read, so they connect through books. Someone like to listening to lectures. Someone likes to do kirtan,
right.
and someone wants to just sit there and do service,
Yeah.
cooking, whatever they like to do. So how do you connect yourself with kirtan, and what does kirtan holds that importance in your life?
Yeah. Yeah, as I was saying, I was always doing kirtan, but I was like attracted to the musical aspect of it because I was a kid. I was like, wow, this kid's so fancy and like nice. And then you're kind of like in the center there. But then as I grew, I started to realize that I actually don't know what I'm doing. And I remember there was this one point. This was on the day of my initiation. This is like a little personal story. And it was at Tirupati.
Yeah.
So I got initiated there, and the same day was 64 rounds day where devotees were chanting 60. So I was sitting and I was chanting, and I chanted 64 plus rounds. But still my mind was wandering. And still I was like, who is Krishna? You know, like, who am I? You know, at that point, because I used to be Stoka Krishna, and then I got initiated and I was Smith Krishna. So I was thinking that, okay, I've been Stoka Krishna for 22 years. Now I'm not Stoka Krishna anymore. And I was not able to identify as Smith Krishna yet. So I was like, who am I? And like, who's Krishna? And what am I doing? You know? So then I realized that I need to back up my chanting with reading and with hearing about Krishna, because my Guru Maharaj told me this, that for you to address someone, you have to know that person. So you have to hear about consciousness. So yeah, for me, kirtan is now as I do that, then it's like really unblocked so much that Krishna is actually there. You feel his presence when you do kirtan. My Guru Maharaj says, doing kirtan without reading is like worshipping Krishna without Srimati Radharani. So you have to have both. You have to do kirtan and you have to do reading also and hearing, nourishing you. And then like the reading is so that you understand why you're doing kirtan.
I think your kirtan grows as well while you read. Yeah. When the more you surrender, the more you read, the more you listen, your kirtan grows as well, because that's I've experienced that as well. I think a lot of people who are watching who might not know who Andra Prabhu is and what importance does he hold in everyone's heart. I think a lot of people who do kirtan in temple, they just have they have their life for Aindra Prabhu. They can do, you know. So what importance does Aindra Prabhu hold in your life? And I think we should also tell them that what Aindra Prabhu is.
Yes. Yeah, Andra Prabhu is disciple of Srila Prabhupada. He joined the movement in the USA. I'm not sure, New York or somewhere. I'm not sure exactly. Maybe Washington. I'm not sure. But somewhere in America. And from the very beginning, he was very, very staunch and very intense in Krishna consciousness. He was always doing a lot of Harinam Sankirtan. 8 hours, 10 hours, 12 hours in the streets.
Oh, there as well?
Yeah, in America.
Okay.
And then he had some issues, some political issues with the management or something. So then he was like, okay, I just want to go to Vrindavan, you know. And then he just moved here. You know, like sometimes these things are like a good thing.
Yeah.
It's like Krishna's plan. So yeah, he came here and then he never left Vrindavan, you know. And he just kept doing kirtan, and he inaugurated the Tanfao Kirtan Mandali, you know, iskcon Vrindavan temple, which was Srila Prabhupada's dream, Srila Prabhupada's instruction that there should be a 24-hour kirtan in the temple. He re-inaugurated it. It was happening, but then it kind of stopped. So then he brought it back. And he was such an amazing devotee. We just had his disappearance day festival a few weeks ago. And everyone was like, he's been gone for so long. He left in 2010. But still devotees are still chanting with so much enthusiasm, keeping him as the inspiration, Like, for someone to have such an impact, it's really something amazing,
True.
Yeah. So Aindra Prabhu is very close to our hearts. But he just stayed in Vrindavan and he did kirtan here, but the impact was everywhere. I was in Mauritius, and back then there was no social media. There was not, there was, but it wasn't like,
not like now.
Not like now. Yeah. But still the impact was so strong.
Yeah. In the entire journey, I think patience is one thing which is very important for everyone. Because for me as well, patience was the key.
Right.
My parents, they were patient with me during that journey. And I think you've been in brahmachari ashram and you said a lot of people who were different and they went out different.
Right.
So I think they have to be patient and people around them have to be patient with them because we've been at that point at some point of life.
Exactly.
And we need to understand that. So how was your experience with that, and how would you like to guide whoever's listening this? And they need to be patient with the people around because it's, I think Prabhupada built this family. ISKCON is like a family, and everyone in ISKCON is our god brother or god sister or someone, So it's like a family. So we should be patient with them. So what we would like to guide everyone who's listening this?
Yeah. There were always so many people. My parents were always so patient with me. They're still very patient with me. My Guru Maharaj. It's important because you cannot force something into it. It's with love that you are able to penetrate someone's heart. Like Srila Prabhupada was very, very patient with them. Because, they were hippies and they became devotees and, it took them a long time. So Prabhupada was definitely very patient. There was this story where Andra Prabhu, he was assigned to carve the deity of Lord Jagannath.
Yeah.
First Rathayatra.
Yeah.
And one day Prabhupada walked in and he was carving Lord Jagannath and he was smoking a cigarette. Cigar. And he was resting his hand on Lord Jagannath.
And I think he kept the cigar on the Jagannath head as well. I think I've heard this.
Yeah. So, Prabhupada, if I was there as a devotee carving Lord Jagannath and smoking cigarette, I would blast. But Prabhupada was very patient and very peaceful. He only said, "Why are you keeping the distance of the cigarette?" And then from that day onwards, he never smoked. So this is the power of patience, power of love.
And that's about it. Thank you so much for coming. I think a lot of people who listen to you will be inspired with your story.
Hopefully I was able to spread a little bit of something.
Thank you so much.